Hi everyone, this is OCD Live. I'm Ali Grayman, and let's get to some questions. So the first question I have is actually a very important one. The question goes, how can I disregard a thought when I start to feel emotion about it? Like, I feel nervous and uneasy whenever I have a question in my mind, and if I don't answer it, I feel uneasy. Should I just ignore the emotion too? And this is the thing. When you're getting over OCD, say, for example, you are at 10 out of 10 OCD. That means your anxiety is at level 10. Your feelings and emotions are at level 10, and your logic is at level pretty much like 1 to 0. Okay? It's still there, it's just covered by the emotion to that degree. As you disregard the feelings, as you disregard the emotions, as you disregard the thoughts, you will feel uncomfortable because those feelings are still at a level 10. So you have to kind of view the feelings as a symptom. Like, in the beginning of a cold, you're going to have a lot of runny nose and sore throat and all of that. It's what's going to happen. It's a part of the process. You can't really change that, right? So it's the same thing here. It is what it is. But as you go through the process, when you get to say 7 out of 10, that means 7 out of 10 is still covered by feelings, and 3 out of 10 is now becoming logical. Do you know what I mean? So that's a lot easier to fight at that point. So it does get better as you progress, but in the beginning, yes, you're going against the emotions, you're going against the feelings. Basically, your entire being is screaming at you to react, and you are choosing not to react. Because that part of the mind, the part of the mind that is, that sends the OCD thoughts, it has no way of telling the difference between real thoughts and OCD thoughts. So it basically takes every thought to like that you react to with fear to mean that it's dangerous. It doesn't even understand the content of the thought. That's why people a lot of the times have OCD thoughts switch, or they'll have the same thought but the details within that thought switch, because it's not actually attached to a specific thought, it's attached to the anxiety behind it. So the way the mind works is it always tries to protect you from the things that you are scared of. It doesn't actually understand what you're scared of. It just protects you from whatever you send a fear signal about. So if you're sending a fear signal about something completely irrelevant and silly, right? It's still going to protect you the same way as if it was, the real, thing. And the feelings that you get are the same feelings you would have if you actually, for example, like if you think that, I don't know, something bad happened, like you've done something bad in the past, or you're going to do something bad in the future. The way you would feel if you actually did those things is the exact same feelings that it's sending you now, because it doesn't know to tell the difference. Do you know what I mean? So the feelings are messed up and they're very strong because it basically is mimicking a real situation, because it thinks there is a real situation since you are reacting so strongly. So you are really doing this to yourself with the reaction. It seems like, oh, who cares, I react. But it's like huge is not even the word for it. It's an enormous deal that when you're reacting, and how you're reacting. Every moment you have OCD throughout the day, and most people, when they start out, they have it almost 24/7, is an exposure. And you can choose to either react or not to react. If you react, but by react, I mean react with fear. Whenever you get a thought, you have some sort of a reaction, right? But if you react with fear and like, oh my God, what if this happened, da 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 da, right? That's really, really bad. If you just say, okay, I feel the anxiety, I feel the fear, I'm still in control, this is my OCD talking again, I'm not going to pay attention, I'm not going to take it seriously, but yes, I do feel these emotions and I understand where they're coming from. You're coming from a position of power. You're showing your mind that you are not in fear, that yes, you feel the fear, and that fear is coming to you. It's not you generating it now. When you are reacting with fear, the fear is coming to you and you're doubling it, right? Here you're not doubling. You're saying, yes, it is there, but I'm not going to react. And that fear that came on autopilot loses power. So the next time it comes in, it's going to be a little bit weaker. And that's how we progress in recovery. So yes, to answer the question in short, yes, you disregard all of the emotions no matter how real they feel. And every time I talk to any of my clients, it's always the same thing in terms of It feels, but I want to disregard, but it feels so real. That phrase I hear a million times a day. And with me too, when I was recovering as well, that's how it felt. That you want to disregard, but you just want to get that reassurance before you disregard, but you can't get that reassurance because reassurance shows weakness. It shows that you're scared, and that it shows that you're trying to figure things out because you're scared. The mind sees that signal and is going to actually give you more OCD thoughts on the same topic, either exactly the same topic or a detail of the same topic or a topic that's different but kind of the same. It depends just kind of how your specific mind works, whatever it sends you and whatever situation you're in, right? But generally, it's going to give you another thought. Okay, so next question I have. I suffer from harm OCD, and harm OCD doesn't only involve you harming other people, but it also involves the irrational thought of self-harm. Sometimes 99.999% you would never do it, but it makes you question, why am I thinking this way? Why is this even a topic in my head? Which causes you to panic for absolutely no reason. And what frustrates me more is the fact that you know that these thoughts are illogical, but they are still a non-removable stain. My question is a pure O treated easily? And with pure O, here's the advantages and disadvantages of having pure O versus more physical compulsions type of OCD. When you have physical compulsions OCD, you have to do exposure and response prevention, meaning you are exposing yourself to the situation that you fear, and then you're preventing the response. So for example, if a person has driving OCD, they're exposing themselves to driving and preventing the response of fear because driving is a normal activity. With pure O, the exposure is already done for you, which is great because you already are thinking about the topic, right? 24 hours a day. It's always in your mind. So you're already exposed to the thought, where with physical compulsions you actually have to do something. And if a person is really far into OCD and is completely ignoring those physical things, right? Or not ignoring, but rather avoiding those physical things, it's hard to get them to even do an exposure because they're so scared, right? So here with Puro, half of the work is already done for you, which is good. But you need to work on the response prevention. So you're getting the thought, that's the exposure. Good. I know it doesn't feel good, but it is good in terms of recovery, right? That you already have that first part down. Now, the response prevention. Right now, you're reacting with fear, you're paying a lot of attention, probably you're taking it very seriously, you're trying to figure it out. That's the response of fear, that's what gets you deeper into OCD, and that's how most people really react, right? What you need to do instead is say, this is an OCD thought, just like I said in the last question, right? I'm not paying attention to it. Anything that has to do with my topic, whatever that topic is irrelevant. Actually, you were saying, yeah, harm OCD. So anything to do with causing harm to myself or to other people is immediately labeled as OCD. I'm not digging it. I'm not trying to figure it out. I'm not reacting. I'm going to go on with my day the best I can. And here, just like people asked me in the first question, right, that it doesn't mean that when you disregard, it doesn't mean that you're going to immediately feel good and you can just go on with your day. No, you're going to feel pretty bad. But you're choosing to go on with your day even though you feel bad sends a strong message that you are trying to change how your brain is viewing it. It doesn't send a message of fear, it sends a message of power. And that's how the brain kind of, not like frequency, but the pathways of the brain change of how when you get this certain thought, the brain is gonna view it and what kind of hormones are gonna come up and all of that. Because see, when you get a thought now, anything to do with harm, in your mind, I'm not obviously, as you guys know, I'm not a doctor, so I'm not using like technical terms, but your mind starts to produce like cortisol and adrenaline, and your heart starts beating faster. You can even get like your stomach might feel funny, all of these symptoms because your mind is preparing for a stressful situation. That is how it's used to handling any thought that has to do with harm. When you are disregarding, like in this situation with harm. That when you're disregarding, what happens is the mind starts to change how it reacts when faced with this particular situation, with this particular stimuli. So it's very, very important that you always react without fear, you know, and and you have to stop the panic, you know. So once you do this, because what you're saying to me, like, why am I thinking this way? Why is this even a topic in my head, right? Um, you're thinking this way because you have OCD. Why is this particular topic in your head? It's because OCD always attacks what is the most important to you. So if you're a really good person, really sensitive, really conscientious, right? It's going to attack that, you know? Just like if a person, for example, like person who cares a lot about their family, they're going to be worried something's going to happen to their family, you know? And it could be like harm OCD or whatever, just, you know, like magical thinking or any of those things, you know? Or a person who's worried about, say, money. They're going to worry that something's going to happen to their financial situation, you know? It's whatever is the most precious to you, that is what it's going to attack. So that is why you're having this thought. And it actually means you're the opposite of what the thought suggests. Do you know what I mean? So if it suggests that you're going to harm people, you're the opposite of that. You know, you're like the most least likely person to ever harm anybody. And specifically talking about harm OCD, guys, if you're experiencing harm OCD, I can't tell you how common it is. It is extremely common. I talk to so many people every single day who have harm OCD. You know, I get emails as well and all of this other stuff. You know, like, to be honest with you, cleaning OCD is actually not that common. But harm OCD is extremely common. And actually cleaning OCD a lot of the time is harm OCD because the person would be worried that if they don't clean properly, something bad is going to happen, or like basically kind of harm OCD, right? So but harm OCD is extremely common. There's nothing to fear in terms of why me, why am I having these thoughts? You're having these thoughts because this is kind of the worst thing you could think of, and your brain wants you to be fully protected, especially protected from the thing that you are afraid of the most, and that's why it's sending you like that kind of like extreme scenario. So that's all it means. It's kind of like I'm giving you reassurance, and I don't want to really give you reassurance, but at the same time, you need to understand where the thoughts are coming from, because I find that generally, in terms of OCD recovery, where the doctors are lacking is that there's not enough education for the person about how OCD works. And just like these questions, like, why am I having these thoughts? Why doesn't reassurance help? You know, like they're simple questions, but they can make or break your recovery. So it's very, very important to know these things, because OCD is actually a very logical disorder. It functions very kind of like it's like play by numbers, you know. It's really logical how it works, and it works pretty much the same for everybody, just like everybody has different thoughts depending on what they're scared of the most, right? But how the OCD progresses and how it goes away is pretty much the same. So if you learn these patterns, you know, then you're ahead of the game. You already know what it's going to do before it does it. So when it does it, you're like, oh, I'm not scared. I anticipated this happening. So I hope this kind of answers your question. So I just want to answer another comment here in below the videos that I received about failing and how frustrating it can be when you're failing 100% of the time. And you have to keep in mind that when you are when you're trying to disregard the thought and you're failing with it, you're still kind of showing to your mind that the thought is not that important, because you're still attempting to disregard. So it's not, even if you fail, it's not for nothing, you know, but you do have to do the work, you know. In terms of what you said, that people are telling me that I create my problems in my life, and it really makes you feel bad. Really, this is a question that gets brought up often with my clients, is don't talk to other people about your OCD. To be honest with you, like, I know it kind of it might surprise you that I say that, but it's never a good idea, because look, okay, if you talk to your family about OCD, they're not prepared to understand it. They'll listen to you, but they won't understand it, and it might scare them, or they might. They might, like, they're a human being. Like everybody you're talking to, they're a human being, and who knows how they're gonna react to what you're saying. So it's very, very important for you to try to do your best, but at the same time, try as much as you can not to take on board what they're saying. You know, just keep trying. And you know how that in the cartoon, just keep swimming, just keep trying. And as you keep trying, you will get better and better at recovery. But you have to keep disregarding the thoughts. So the thoughts are coming in, they're giving you a lot of anxiety. Yes, but you're disregarding them and just going through it like that. Because, guys, honestly, nothing else works. Reassurance will never make you recover. Never. At best, you will go from thought to thought to thought. At worst, you will just get deeper into the thought. And that just depends on the type of thought you have. Some thoughts are just easy to get reassurance for, so you can just figure it out, and then what happens is you just go, like, the mind it's not attached to the thought, so it's going to send you a new thought, and then you're going to have to solve that one, and you can go for years and years like that. So you get the thought, you're disregarding it. Yes, you have the feelings. Yes, you have the anxiety. You're still going on with your life as much as you can, like as normally as you can. And then the thoughts will start to lessen. If the thoughts are increasing or your anxiety is getting progressively worse, 100% of the time, it's because you're doing reassurance. Either reassurance from other people, reassurance from reading things online, reassurance from trying to figure it out. So going back to the situation, or like any kind of rumination, right? So, or if your OCD is worrying about the future, trying to figure out how it would happen, what would happen, thinking about the consequences of these things and all of that. All of this gets you deeper, and you have to stop these behaviors in order to recover. So the next question I have is, I keep repeating reassuring sentences in my head, but it seems to happen automatically. I don't know how to stop this. When you have a habit, like an OCD habit, after a while it starts to happen automatically. If it's happening automatically and you're not causing it, you're actually not sending the signal of fear, because it's happening on autopilot. But whenever you catch yourself doing it, that's when it's important to stop yourself. So maybe you did it for 10 minutes without even recognizing that what you're doing, and then you finally see that that's what's happening. Okay, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm pulling back. I'm disregarding. I'm gonna go, focus my mind on, go do something else. Focus my mind on something else. So you're not doing reassurance. The goal here is, however, you can see, like, through the different questions here, however you slice it, you have to stop seeking reassurance. If you don't, you will never recover. This is kind of like the hard facts, because people are like, well, how can I recover? Stop seeking reassurance. If you don't stop, you won't recover. It's really as simple and as complicated as that, because in theory it's a simple thing, but in practice there's a lot of details. There's a lot of little, like, tricks and techniques on how to do that, but in basic terms, that yes, you have to stop seeking reassurance to feel better. So the next question I have is about religious OCD. The person is asking, it's a long email, but the person is asking if they have a bad thought, a disrespectful thought in a religious kind of situation. They feel that because of that disrespect, something is going to happen to their family in terms of health. And how do you deal with that kind of a theme? And again, so this is, if we break this down, right? OCD always wants you to look at the details, right? But if we break this down, what we see here is the person is getting the thought of, what if what if something is going to happen to the family, right? So that, and this is pure O. So this is already exposure, right? So this is what we're talking about earlier with pure O OCD. In terms of, you were asking what books to read, pure O OCD books are the best books to read in your case. I have one, or there's probably other ones on the market out there as well. So with that, when you have the religious OCD, right, you're already having exposure, right? Now, what are you doing as a response? The response is where you're having a problem. That, yes, you are getting the thought of what if this, what if that. You know, you got a thought, that some disrespectful thought. Then you got a thought of what would happen to the family. That's all exposure. Now, how are you dealing with the response? Your response is fear, paying too much attention to it, taking it seriously. And as you're saying here, that you were reading some books to try to figure things out, in terms of like, is it real, is it not real, that kind of a thing. All of these behaviors will cause OCD to get worse. So you have to stop all of these behaviors. The exposure part is fine. The response is where you're having a problem. You need to change how you're responding to this. As soon as you start to change it, you will feel that the OCD thoughts are getting better. Not like right away, because right away what happens is you're actually going to get more OCD thoughts, because your mind wants you to do the research, it wants you to try to figure it out, because that's how you protect yourself, right? So because it thinks there's the actual real thing to protect yourself against. So you just have to be strong through that period, but then you will see that your anxiety is going to start to go down. And just like I answered in the other question, you will feel uncomfortable at first. You just have to kind of go through that period. There's not really much you can do, because that uncomfortableness is coming on autopilot. So the feelings that you're doing the wrong thing, that you're going to cause harm. And again, you guys can see, like with the last question, you know, it's religious OCD, but it's kind of really harm OCD as well, because the person is afraid of causing harm to the family members through their actions, whether physical or not physical, right? In this case, not physical, but still. So you're taking the thought, but you're viewing it only as OCD, you know? So you're disregarding the actual validity of the thought. Yes, I have the thought come in. No, it means nothing. You know what I mean? So that way, going through it, I think that you're going to feel a big difference in your recovery. Because right now, to be honest with you, what you're doing is making yourself worse, right? Because you're getting deeper and deeper into research, into trying to figure it out. And that's making the problem be worse. So the next question I have, I don't avoid my triggers, but that leads me to having anxiety and then fighting hard to resist the reassurance seeking. Is this normal path in recovery? So the person doesn't avoid the triggers, but because they don't avoid the triggers, they're having a lot of anxiety and then fighting hard to resist the reassurance and resist the trying to figure it out. So this is normal. This is good. What you're doing is right. Just keep doing it, and just keep disregarding the thoughts, the validity of the thoughts. Yes, you feel anxiety. No, you're not going to react. You can guys, you can see that all of these questions are really kind of the same question, because everybody who's recovering from OCD, everybody's in the same boat, you know. So to say, like, if you're worried that what if my situation is different, what if my situation is unique, I hear that every day as well, right? That it's no, it's not different. No, it's not unique. Your thoughts are just things that are scaring you most. That's why you're getting that particular thought. There's no other reason for it, you know, because it attacks what's most precious to you. And because we're all different, everybody has thoughts or things that are the scariest to them that are different from other people. Like some people, like I said, some people are more focused on religion, some people are more focused on family, some people are more focused on money, some people are more focused on their job, and whatever that thing is, that's what it's going to attack. You know, that's all that it matters, and you're doing exactly right. So that's really great to hear, and just keep going with this. You should see your anxiety decrease as you continue to do this. And also, like, if you have a setback for the day, don't worry about it. Setbacks happen. I have not seen one person including myself, have a recovery where it's a linear recovery, that I started to disregard the thoughts and poof, I'm better. It's You're gonna start to disregard the thoughts. Most of the time, hopefully, you're gonna succeed. Sometimes you will fail and you will fall into paying attention to the thoughts. But as long as you do it most of the time successfully, you will recover. And that's how people do it. That's how I did it. That's how most of my clients do it. You have to have at least an 80-20, around 80-20 average. So 80% of the time you're disregarding, 20% of the time, you're just trying your best. You know what I mean? So but at least trying to maintain that, because ideally you do want to have 100% disregard, but it's hard. It's hard, and I don't really see it in theory. Yes, in practice I don't really see it. But if you have a day that's not so good, who cares? It doesn't matter. Don't make that day last longer by dwelling on it, by worrying, what if I never recover, all this stuff, negative thinking, because that again sends the wrong signal to your brain. So yes, I failed for a few hours, or I failed, even like if you failed for a few days. I failed for a few days, I'm on a better path, I'm moving on, I don't care. And just going through it like that. So the next question I have is, the person is asking, it's kind of a long email, I'm not going to read you all of it, but the point is that the person is disregarding, but sometimes, the person says, sometimes at work I feel like I get stuck on repeating your 3-method sentences and doing it over and over again like a compulsion. See, anything can become a compulsion. So if you're feeling like if it feels like a compulsion, try to either change how you're saying it to yourself, or make sure you're not saying it in threes, so there's no pattern. Try to change it so you're doing it randomly all the time. But generally, what you're saying, you are on the right path, because you're still showing, even if you are repeating it obsessively, you're still showing your mind that this is OCD, and this is a lot better than showing your mind that, oh my god, I'm so scared, this is real, blah blah blah. Because that's definitely the wrong signal. This is like not very good. But it's not really particularly that bad too. Thank you for your kind words, and it's really sweet. Like, the person wrote me a really sweet email, and I think you are on the right path. Just keep going with it, and just like you're doing now, refuse all reassurance. So the next question I have is about depersonalization and derealization thoughts. And what if I forget who I am or where I am? And the person is avoiding to go anywhere by themselves. So the more you avoid, the stronger these thoughts are going to become. So even though it's scary, you have to do the exposures. Avoidance and reassurance are the same thing. You're trying to protect yourself from something you don't need protection from. So you have to stop those things. As you stop those things, you will start to feel better. So this is the end of the show. Thank you guys so much for listening. If you have any questions, you can email me privately to info@youhaveocd.com. You can also visit youhaveocd.com. There's a private recovery program there with me. And there's also ebooks, there's articles there. So there's a lot of information on OCD recovery. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to this channel, and I'll see you in the next video.